I was living my life in the servitude of misunderstandings of people I love. Giving it all, it was never enough. Because of the fall, I could never get up. I moved on from their misunderstandings. I am no longer standing under them. I was drowning, now I swim. 'Cause I found the strength within. I don't need your absent friend. 'Cause I got this. 'Cause I got this, yeah. 'Cause I got this. 'Cause I got this, yeah. This is holy ground. Depraved and deprived, I was living your life. Lost in a moment with true sacrifice. Voices are plenty that never seem right. Visions, distractions that alter my sight. I moved on from their misunderstandings. I am no longer standing under them. I was drowning, now I swim. 'Cause I found the strength within. I don't need your absence, friend. 'Cause I got this, yeah. 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 This is holy ground. This is holy ground. This is holy ground. This is holy ground. I was living my
Welcome in.
life in the servitude of
Oh, so it's just gonna keep playing. I'm just playing. That's me. I just wanted to let it ride.
Giving it all, it was never enough.
I'm not gonna sing for y'all. I was tempted to. I still remember when I wrote that song, and man, it gives me chills. Like it's just such an amazing song. Hey, when are arguments worth having? That's what we're gonna be talking about today. So good to see so many of you jumping on the stream already. I know this is impromptu. I didn't plan anything. You didn't plan anything. You didn't expect it. I'm just here. And when it comes to stuff like this, I'm always nervous when I do a midday live because I'm like, man, I don't know who's going to show up to this. But in all actuality, I do it anyway because I think, hey, it may bring some value to someone. So if you're watching, make sure to, number one, like the stream and then share it. Yeah, that's the thing. Share it, like it, and then share it with somebody because this might be helpful for them. It may not give them an answer, but it might put them on a path to an answer or help them see something. I often tell people, like, I don't want to be anybody's source of truth. Those days are over for me. Like when I was a pastor, that was always exhausting when people come up to you and say, what's the word? What's the word for the day? What is the Lord telling you? I don't want to be anybody's source of truth. But what I think is what I'm more effective as being, I can't be your source of truth, but I can be one of the many available points of references in life. And so when I share things, I'm not saying, hey, this is how everybody needs to do things. We're all different people. But I share things to say, hey, here's an option. I'm a point of reference. You can determine how close you want your options to be to that option. because you have to filter that through the lens of your reality, your lived experience. This is one of the reasons I'm not a big fan, of the guru culture, where there's somebody out there who's never met you and knows nothing about your life, but tells you, like, I guarantee you, I know I can give you a 5-step plan to fixing everything. And I'm like, to me, that's just as superstitious as believing that someone can pray over you or speak something into your life. It simply doesn't work that way. There is no substitute for knowledge. There's no reason for unearned certainty. And it's just not a good thing to give people place in your life. So, like, I always kind of reject that position. I don't like when people ask me for answers to questions. And it's weird because everybody like, but you talk so much. I think that you love answering questions. No, like, I don't answer anybody's questions. I help them explore, reality through a different lens. I think any of you that have been following me for any length of time, the popular imagery that I like to use is just like, we're all the blind man touching the elephant. So we can learn so much through other people, but oftentimes what we learn through other people could never be definitive because they have just as limited insight as we have outside of their context, And by far and large, if you live outside of somebody else's context, they have very limited insight into who you are. Now, if you deconstructed Christianity, you probably still live in that slippery slope where you think you know things that you don't know. You know what I'm saying? Like, you see somebody say, "Oh, I know why they doing that." Like, you ain't got a clue. So one of the things, and this is something that I took from my deconversion journey. Hey, Monica. It's something I took from my deconversion journey. Like, a lot of people, and y'all have heard me say this, but I'm going to say it till it gets old, man. A lot of people who go through deconversion or who go through any type of deconstruction, because I wasn't just deconstructing my religion when I was going through my process. I was also deconstructing my relationship to history, my relationship to culture, my relationship to relationships. You know what I'm saying? And so, hell, even my relationship to health, hello, 500 pounds lighter. Well, 400 pounds lighter. But what I did was, when I realized it, when I started going through the process, the thing that I said to myself was, most people sit down and say, man, they lied to me. They've been lying to me this whole time. And you know what? If you're between the ages of 12 and 18, maybe 12 and 21, I'll give you that. I will give you that. For me, I was at 28 when I came to that realization. And so they lied to me was useless. I couldn't do nothing with that. I can't do a damn thing with who lied to me. There's no power in that. There's nothing transformative in that. There's nothing revelatory in that. I get no epiphany that makes me better by realizing somebody else lied to me. As a matter of fact, that's not a flex. That's not a flex that you spent, for me, 28 years believing stuff that wasn't true. It's not a flex. That is that easy to lie to you, that all someone has to do to lie to you is tell you something and you believe it. The problem at that moment might be on you. See, that was the type of conversation I had with myself. So it wasn't they lied to me. It was, Darante, you got a propensity to believe bullshit, and you might want to fix that, right? You might want to fix this, like, okay, they lied to you about, Jesus being the Son of God. But what possible evidence could they have given you to prove that to you? Like, so they didn't even have to work hard to lie to you. You believe something that was crazy. You know what I'm saying? Like, we all did it. We all did it. Thanks for everything. Thank you. I appreciate y'all. The opening music was fire. I had no idea you were such a talented musician. You might like Dredge. They have some great lyrics along similar lines. Oh, thank you for calling that out. I will check them out. Man. Like, right. Can't believe we believed the Noah's Ark story for so long, And so, like, I know I can't stop people from lying. Like, I have no control over that. I have no control over who wants to lie to me, right? But I do have control over what I accept, over what I believe, over what I understand. And so I gave myself a little rule. It's a little rule. I don't allow myself to pretend. I don't allow myself to pretend to know anything that I don't actually know. You know, so somebody comes and say, see, everybody knows. Ooh, I don't know if I know that. I know it's something that's considered popular knowledge. I remember I was on a show one time and someone tried to slip us up and said, well, if a person goes on Mars and sees a quantum computer, wouldn't they have to know that somebody created it? And I said, aha, I don't know what the fuck a quantum computer looks like. So how would I be able to assume that anybody who'd never seen the quantum computer before would actually know what one looks like? Nope. I don't allow myself to pretend to know anything that I don't know. I've often shared this story, and it goes to everything, right? I've often shared this story about one time me and my wife was sitting down watching our guilty pleasures. We watch, reality house shows and all that jive. And we're sitting down and we're watching something, and I'm mad. Like I'm all mad at everything that's happening on there. And I'm snapping about T.I. and his wife. And I'm like, now T.I. just too smart to be married to somebody like Tiny. And I'm going off. And then I realized, like, bruh, you don't know either of these people. And you is all in you all in your emotions about their relationship. You are now pretending to know people that you really don't know just because it's on television in front of you. That might be a part of your propensity to not only believe bullshit, but to entertain stuff that has no foundational impact or significant impact on your life whatsoever. And you might want to stop doing that. And you know what I did? I stopped. I said, man, let me get out them people's marriage. I don't know them. She may do something for that man that, hey, so let me get out of their stuff. All right. So I don't know how I got there, but the big point is, oh yeah, there it is. Like when you're deconstructing, you're deconverting. It's for me, it's not just about identifying who told me the wrong things, because people lie every day, even when they ain't trying to lie. Like at some point, you have to face the fact that, hey, your mama and grandmama and them didn't lie to you. They believe the bullshit too. They were just as dumb as your ass. You know what I'm saying? You come from a long line of dumb motherfuckers. That's what you got to reconcile with. You got to wrestle with it. Now, I'm not saying you got to do it, but that's what I did. Because I'm like, oh, no. I believe bullshit because quite a few people in my life believe bullshit, and that normalized it. Believing, like, you practice believing bullshit in this country at a young age. From the time you're a child, they put the bullshit training wheels on you where you gotta practice believing in the tooth fairy, and you gotta practice believing in Santa Claus, and you gotta practice believing in an Easter bunny, and you gotta practice believing that a groundhog is going to change the weather. All of these things have been practicing bullshit. You got to practice that if you whistle in the house, it's going to bring 7 years of bad luck. See, we've been practicing superstition for so long that many of us don't realize that learning is something that we never actually started doing. All right, that's not what I'm supposed to be trying to talk today. That's not what I'm supposed to be talking about today. Tiny be giving Tip that work. You know what I'm saying? Like it gotta be something going on where Tiny is like, with T.I. is like, hey, I ain't going nowhere, but no, like that's real deal. And that's how I approach a lot of things. So listen, what we're doing today is I often get a lot of email messages, DMs, text messages. People have a lot of questions. And I told y'all, I don't like being that's hilarious. I tell y'all, a bloodline of fools, man. I tell you, I don't like being people's source of truth. So I don't always answer people questions when they ask me. I'm like, what makes you think I'm uniquely qualified to answer specific questions about your life? You don't know me like that. I don't know you like that. And I don't want to set up those false expectations. But every now and then I get questions that are either more grounded on me, or questions that I feel are broad enough where, like, hey, I not only do I have an answer for this, but I have a conversation for this. Man, oh, you was Jehovah's Witness, Monica. Dang. Oh man, see, like we're gonna have to make up some Christmases for you. Okay, we're gonna have to get some Christmases for you and take you back on a winter wonderland, man. Like, wow. Yeah, J Dubs had it hard. You couldn't do Christmas, you couldn't do birthdays. Hell, y'all couldn't even watch the Smurfs. Like that was J Dubs was hard. Like I was in a family that was Baptist, Methodist, and not really anything. Like the older people went to church. You know what I'm saying? And then they went to church, but they didn't support that motherfucker. Like we just here. We go here because we supposed to. But yeah, we got, and that is something, man. We I think that's something we can do in the post-religious space and something that we should do. And I'm saying it's sort of tongue in cheek, but you have no idea how healing that could be to start sponsoring some secular Christmas stuff for folk who didn't get to have Christmas. Now I had it. I'll tell you, it wasn't all that. If you broke, Christmas is stressful as hell. I'm talking about even for the kids, because you trying your hardest not to get your damn hopes up. Hearing everybody talk about, what they getting at school, and your family broke as hell, and you trying to figure out whether you believe in miracles or not. Is it gonna be this year? Are they actually gonna be? Am I gonna get a Sega Genesis? Nah, you've been tortured yourself, Damn sure no Halloween. Yikes, man. I loved Halloween as a kid. I went to Halloween as Trojan Man one year because my mother worked for a condom factory and we couldn't afford costumes, but I wore her little condom apron. I'm sure that's not what it's called, but that's what I'm calling now. That's what I wore for Halloween for trick-or-treating. Anyway. Okay, so I got this message, and I've redacted it a little bit to protect the person's personal information. Sometimes these messages do get a little long, which I'm not complaining about, especially when a person is pouring out their heart or sharing something that's important to them. I'm like, wow, because honestly, at that moment, it's more about them than it is me. It's about them feeling the freedom to process that, to share that, and get it out there. So I'm always grateful for that. But so I get this one, and like I said, I've redacted some stuff in it because I don't want to put anybody's information out there. Solstice is based on reality. It's what we celebrate in our house with decorations and a special meal. I love that. That's for those of you who, if you've been with Sunday sessions since the beginning, then you know that we started Sunday sessions on a Sunday that's typically recognized as Easter. It was called a very secular Easter Sunday. And that's what we talked about. Of course, we from a deconstruction aspect, we talked about what people used to do for Easter, and how they used to celebrate it before and what they thought about it, and were they taught about any of the ancient traditions and why those traditions existed. I wrote a song for the winter solstice that I actually debuted it on this channel. I normally put it on the Brit City channel, but I put it on this channel. It's called Winter. Because like in my mind, like there's nothing wrong with recognizing the seasons that we're in, how those seasons change, how we as a social species identify with those seasons, and how those seasons have a strong story or have a strong part in our story of humanity. So I want to see more of that, and between the work that I do with the ODD World Group, which I'm really excited about, and the work that I do with Bridge City, which y'all already know I'm excited about. That is something that we want to get into, that we want to be very intentional about. Like one of our Bridge City holiday seasons is called Rise Season, and it's basically based off of the spring solstice and when we launched. Oh man! All right, so y'all ready for me to read this message? All right, we got a good crowd here today, man. I love y'all for just jumping on for an impromptu conversation. All right, this person says, excuse me. This person says, hey man, I've been watching and following you for a while now, and I noticed that I don't see you participating in a lot of online arguments, even when it seems that your name is on the line. I've seen you shut down arguments on your page, and I don't, that's a personal thing for me. I've never liked that. Which I've never really had an issue with that up until I became more vocal as an atheist and as a humanist. And so because people identify with me, I did have an influx at one time of people jumping on my page to argue, but that's not something I do. I know certain people do, and I know they love going back and forth. Um, I don't want to put anybody down, but I consider that childish. That's why I don't engage with it. Now, you don't consider it childish. That's why you do it. Or maybe you do consider it childish and you just like to be childish. Who doesn't even matter. But I don't do it because I consider it childish. And so anybody tries to do it on my page, I shut that shit down. I ask you nicely, hey, don't bring that here. You can message me if you want to, and I'll either engage or ignore you. Those are the options in real life. Just because we're online doesn't mean you get to force me into a conversation. I will either engage or ignore. And either way, it's my prerogative, you know. So yeah, I do shut down those pretty quickly. Just because I don't live in that world. I do not. And he says, and I've heard you say that you're not a fan of debate, which is not necessarily true. It's not that I'm not a fan of debate. I actually enjoy debate. I enjoy watching debate. I enjoy engaging in good faith and fruitful debate. What I don't like is debate culture for what it's become in, I'll just say, within the atheist versus Christian conversation, because it's just like at some point we're not really having a genuine conversation. If you're not going to debate somebody that believes that Iron Man saved the world with a snap, if you wouldn't debate them seriously, that's just me, and me. And y'all have heard me talk about that. Okay. So do you think any arguments are worth having, or do you avoid them all? I'm not trying to be funny. I'm currently struggling, and that's what saved them, right? Because I was about to stop reading right there. Like, I'm not trying to be funny. Okay, let me see what you're trying to say. I'm not trying to be funny. I'm currently struggling because I'm in a lot of arguments lately. And while most of them are important to me, I don't know if it's really worth it. Some of them feel like it, but others are just draining. How can I tell when an argument is worth my time? And like, that's what I want to highlight today. I see I missed some chat, so let me jump in here. And because they don't scroll up the way that I want them to scroll up. Talking past each other. Yep. Especially when one side is completely closed to persuasion. Yeah. No, I like that. I like that honesty. I like that honesty so much. And that's what I ask people to be, is like, just be honest. Be honest. I got a sister who's petty like that. She'll argue just for the argue. That's how she lives. You know what I'm saying? And so she'll go there with you. And so like, which we haven't talked in a while, but I just have to remind her, hey, I ain't here for that. You got to find somebody else to argue with. All right. So the ultimate question is, do I find any arguments worth engaging? And how do you protect yourself, right? Man, y'all are welcome. You're welcome, Cushness. I like that. I'm gonna roll up right after this. For me, it's a few things, right? I had an epiphany back in 2015, the year after I deconverted. I had an epiphany, and that epiphany was recognize other people's trauma cycles and refuse to join them. Because sometimes you're not even being invited into an argument, you're being invited into a trauma cycle. Okay. So there was a huge issue that happened back in 2015 that I almost got pulled into. And I remember, like, I'm gonna have to get the details, but only the people who know the situation would know what I'm talking about. But there was a pastor who was accused of cheating on his wife with some people in his church. And it was still like on a hush hush, but it was also like, oh, everybody know that this guy be cheating on his wife type of thing. And it was just like the hush hush was starting to evolve over. And some people had confided into me about what was going on. And watch this, by them confiding into me about what was going on, and because I was a staff member at the church, like, I felt responsible for everything. I was like, oh, snap. And the thing kept bubbling And I remember sitting down talking to my wife, and I'm like, man, because people's relationships were getting impacted by everything that was going on. And it was just really, really negative, but there was some factors that I was paying attention to. And I told my wife, I said, I feel really bad. Like, I hope I'm not the one that caused all of this, because the person came and told me. I said, I hope I'm not the one that caused all of this. And I remember that was a very familiar feeling. And I was like, Darante, you're doing something that you always do. And it says, what's that? And it's like, here, this is what I want you to do. And this is what I did for me. And this is just the first part. We'll jump into some other stuff. But I said, step back and take a look at the situation. Right? I love to take the long view of things, because the short view will keep you confused and trapped and stuck in other people's bullshit. So what I did was I said, let me take the long view. And so when I stuck out of the, when I stood back and took the long view, I realized, like, this isn't the first time that they've had a situation like this. You know, like when I took the long view of the context of what was happening, I'm like, they went through a similar situation like this last year, and the year before that, and the year before that, and the year before that. These people are trapped in a trauma cycle that they are refusing to engage. Therefore, you can refuse to join them, you know, of the absurdity of their replies. You know what I'm saying? So that's the first one. Like, recognize what it is. Like, there was some, you know, and that may be what the person is responding to. Like, some people were trying to create some drama around, you know, on my page about something that had absolutely nothing to do with me, but was hoping perhaps to use my name or you know, or whatever, my image or whatever, to give some credibility to the thing that they wanted to fight about. And it's like, oh no. You don't get to bull guard my page for your agendas. You know what I'm saying? Like, the only way we work like that is we have to be in partnership. But if we're not in partnership, you don't just get to, you know, jump in. And at first I was confused. I was like, what is going on? Because he wasn't even people I knew. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like, what? And then I realized, oh, Darante, they do this every year. This is a thing for them. This is their trauma cycle. So one of the reasons it's hard to get me into arguments is because I'm really good at paying attention to when this is more about you than me. This is your thing. This is some personal problem you have, and I'm not your therapist, so I'm not going to be the one to fix it. So recognize trauma cycles and refuse to join them. So that was just one part. Sometimes it's not even about the argument for me. It's about, is this a cycle for them? Is this just because if it's a cycle, then there's no fruit out of this. There's nothing meaningful that's going to come out of us going back and forth. This is what you do every year around February for whatever reason. Now you have to get some introspection about yourself. But if this is just another cycle, then there's nothing I'm going to be able to do to fix it. You have to break your own cycles. Okay. So in all honesty, I'm more interested in conversations than arguments. All right. And this is gonna rub some of y'all the wrong way, but it is what it is. Everybody don't qualify to have a conversation with me. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm friendly, but I'm not that damn nice. Everybody does not qualify to have a conversation with me, you know? And that ain't because I feel like I'm all big or bad, and which I do feel like I'm all big or bad. That's how I got here. You got to feel like it before you get there. That was my revelation in 2014, bruh. That ain't nobody gonna treat you like what you ain't gonna treat yourself like. Because again, y'all know I found out I was wasting a lot of my time. And so what I did was I stopped answering my phone. That was my way of saying, can't nobody force me into conversation no more. So watch this. To even be in conversation with me, you got to qualify for a conversation. You got to qualify to have a conversation with me. And if you don't qualify for a conversation, an argument is not even on the menu. Now, everybody can get a high and a buy, but if you want more than that, there has to be something involved in this, something meaningful, you know? Yes. I sometimes try to engage Christians on the Bible, but usually they either haven't read it or words don't mean words. So it's pointless. And that's exactly some of the things that we're going to get to in today's conversation. So number one, like, if you don't qualify to have a conversation with me, an argument is not even on the menu. Like, you don't get to skip the conversation qualification to go to the argument. Like, that's just not how it works. Like, I'm not a like a real rank type person, but when it comes to relationships like that and getting that access, no, you got to go through the right processes, man. I'm like Big Red when it comes to that. My office hours are. Somebody gonna catch that reference. All right, so if I am in an argument with someone, if I'm willing to engage in an argument with someone, then my goal in the argument is to get us back to a place of conversation. An argument is an escalated disagreement. It means we disagree on something, and that disagreement has escalated. That's what an argument is. So worth it depends on what happens after de-escalation. Okay, like I like to call it time traveling. Some people get mad, but it is what it is. I'm me. I ain't got to be you. You call it whatever the hell you want to call it. I'm gonna call it time traveling. You in your mind have the ability to time travel to several different possible futures of that conversation and determine if it will be worth it. You can time travel to the end of that conversation. Fast forward, skip to the end. Okay. Now, because there are variables, there are multiple possible endings. Review a few of those possible endings in advance, and I promise you that'll help you with determining if an argument is worth your time. But first of all, you have to find out if you're even the type of person who would do that math. You know what I'm saying? Because like one thing that used to piss me off when I used to counsel people is I do all of this work to give people tools, exercises, resources that they could use in a heated moment. I'm like, hey, use this. And then they be like, yeah, Pastor, when we got mad, all that went out the window. Heifer, you ain't even trying then. Don't waste my damn time like that no more. Don't come to me asking me to counsel, which I don't counsel people like that anymore anyway. But don't waste your time coming to me, asking for counseling on stuff if you're not even going to use the tools, right? So worth it depends on what happens after de-escalation, and so you have to kind of figure out like how easy is it to get you in an argument? Because if your argumentation is reflexive, then nothing I'm going to share with you is going to be helpful until you know how to slow yourself down. Like you got to know how, like, oh, is that worth my time? Oh, damn. Okay. If you have a hard time knowing when arguments are worth your time, you probably have a hard time knowing when other things are worth your time as well. And so you might spend a lot of time wasting your time. So it's not even about knowing which arguments are worth it or not. It's really more so about learning how to stop living reactively, stop living reflexively, and to give yourself time to do some introspection and respond. Can there be some workshops for deconstruction, or are the talks basically that? We actually have we have a deconstruction club in Bridge City Global, and that's pretty much what they do. All they're doing is talking about deconstruction, working through deconstruction. We have a few deconstruction events that are going to be hosted through there. The content of science to people who have been coached to dismiss it or interpret it beyond recognition. Absolutely. And we do run into a lot of bad faith entanglements like that. So worth it depends on what happens after de-escalation, right? And there are three paths to the de-escalation of a disagreement. And an argument is an escalated disagreement. All right, there are three paths to the de-escalation of a disagreement, or at least from my perspective. You may identify some other paths. I see three paths to de-escalation of a disagreement. There's number one, disengagement, which is my popular one. That's the one I love to go to. Like if it's not worth my time, I'm disengaging. That's one way to de-escalate it. Just disengage completely. The other one is to discuss, where you actually get into a place where you're not debating, you're not fussing back and forth at each other, but you're actually having a discussion, a conversation. Now, I said the first one was my favorite, but this one is my favorite if I actually choose to engage. And the third one, which is the most common, especially in cultures where we're doing it and we're not really wrestling with why, when it's more reflex and reaction than it is response and revolution, is dispersion, which is basically like, we both get so mad, we go into different directions. We both get so damn mad at each other, or so hurt at each other, or so offended by each other's worst or worldview that we go in, we go our own directions. All three are paths for de-escalation. Dispersion often comes after a climax, though, and that climax is typically not the kind you like. It's not the kind that Usher be singing about. You know what I'm saying? Oh man, I found "Can God's World Be in Conflict with God's Word" is a good. Ooh, yeah, that's really good. I've learned to pick my battles, even if the evidence doesn't fit God's word. They will assume that it doesn't. They're going to make it fit. They're going to make it fit, and a part of that has something to do with age play. That's my next video. My next video is about the church having a modern age play problem. And this might explain some of the other age-related issues that churches tend to have. But back to regularly scheduled programming. Be looking out for that video, though. All right. So the only one of those paths to de-escalation, in my opinion, that has an outcome worth engaging is, of course, discussion. Because if you've made the decision that it's not worth engaging, then that's already defeated there. So it's just between discussion and dispersion. And dispersion to me is just never worth it. That's a waste of time. If I'm in an argument and the argument gets to a place of a standstill where the best case scenario is we just both stop talking, at that moment, I'm going to be asking myself, how long did I waste talking to this person about this? And then I might even ask questions like, how much damage did we just do to our relationship over something that wasn't going to change? And why did we treat ourselves like we were incapable of knowing that before the conversation? Now, as a person who's married, I've had it done that a few times, and I've been married twice. But I've had to do that a few times. Like, dang, why did you even make that an argument? Have you ever asked yourself that question? Like, why did you ever make that argument? You knew that this person felt just as strongly about this as you feel about this. Why did you even do this? What was the point there? And so after the tension is removed, the only option for me is, after the tension is removed, if we can get past the tension, is there room, reason, or opportunity for sustained discussion? And if that's not something that either one of us even want on the other end of the conversation, then the argument is not worth having. Because then at that moment, it's just like, I won type of thing. And I'm not 7 years old anymore, so I don't need that type of validation. I don't need, just for you to tell me I won, or just you to tell me that I'm better than you, or anything like that. That's weird. That's weird. I don't mean to make it weird, but I'm just saying it's weird for me. It's weird when people need that type of thing. For me, not for you, for me. So when I got the question and I thought about it and I jotted down some notes, because I actually like to give people things that they can take back and really use in their lives, if you're willing to, if you're not going to be reactionary, if you're going to actually slow down, take a breath, and choose whether or not you're going to engage instead of just being forced into engagements. Oh, man. Oh, there's a child in the chat. I love it. I love it. You got to love when there's children in the chat, man. All right. So 5 worth it tests. 5 worth it tests. Number 1, stakes test. This is a great question. How do you know when there's a child in the chat? When they don't know how to stay on topic? It's very easy. And I think that's probably one of the biggest issues. Thank you for doing that. You just made it relevant. That's probably one of the biggest issues with people not recognizing when an argument is worth your time. If you're arguing with a child in an adult's body, it's always going to be a waste of your time. Like, if you learn how to recognize when people are being childish, that's rule number 1. Like, damn, don't be out here arguing with kids in adult bodies. That's just somebody who never grew up. Get somebody who never grew up. And like it's never gonna get you anywhere. All right. So the first one is the stakes test. The stakes test. What is actually at risk? Shamefully delicious. I love that. Hey, we all got our guilty pleasures, right? I can be a beast with my words. And so, like, if you do get me an argument, I'm going to have fun with it. I'm going to have fun with it, you know? Oh, I'm telling you. Look, I'm in the same situation. My whole family is childish. My whole family, both sides. Oh man, I love them, but damn, they childish. I've never been able to have a healthy. Watch this. I lived so many years of my life as an unhealthy person because I could never have healthy conversations. You know what I'm saying? Whew. You know, I spent so many years of my life as an unhealthy person because there was no such thing as healthy conversations in my life. You know, I had to finally get, like, again, 28. It took me to 28 to realize, like, and I wrote about this in my book, Black Non-Believer Next Door, shameless plug. But I wrote about this in my book that I had to get to a place where I realized, like, oh, like I struggled so many years thinking, oh, they just don't like me. They just don't like me. They just don't like me. And in 2014, like after my first good pull on some good weed, it was like, you know what? I don't think I like them either. And it wasn't just a thing about not liking them. It was like, I don't like being in a situation that's not healthy. And I don't have to stay in it just because we blood related. You know, see, this might give you some insight into why I approach arguments the way that I do. Because if I don't even cut my family slack, like, no, like, I don't know if y'all realize this about me, but I am number one priority in my life. I am the God of my universe, worthy of all the worship and all the praise. First consideration all the time. And so that's where I live now. If this is not healthy for me, I want no part. If I can't engage healthily, I want no part. That's how I keep myself from getting stuck in regrets. You know how many people I talk to on a weekly or monthly basis who is stuck in regrets? And what I mean by that is they're in a situation they regret being in, and yet they stuck. I don't do that. I don't stay stuck. The moment I realize this is not healthy for me, I get up and go because I'm a free human being, and I'd expect other people to do the same thing. But damn. All right. So what are the stakes? What's actually at risk? Like, this is it worth it to have this argument? What are the stakes of the argument? It's worth it when the outcomes touch safety, dignity, money, time, trust, health, or rights. If it impacts something that is deeply important or deeply viable, something that is of utility for my life, then this conversation has to be had. My life or somebody else's life. It is not worth it if it's just ego, trivia, vibe checking, or I need you to admit I'm right. I'm not your Steve Harvey, so I'm not here to answer your trivia questions. You know what I'm saying? So if it's just ego, if it's just vibe checking, I'm just trying to see if you one of us. I'm just trying to see if you really is who you say you is. Ain't no grown folks got time for that. That's high school shit. No. If you out here paying grown ass bills, you know what I'm saying? Raising kids. I got 4 of them. You know what I'm saying? Raising kids. Then, like, ain't nobody got time for that. Lord, there's a fire out here. Ain't nobody got time for that. Come on now. I like that. Being selfish. It's a natural instinct for a reason. It can get out of hand like any other instinct, but just like eating and sleeping, it serves an important person. I like that. I'm the God in my universe. You know what? We're going to have to put it on the shirt, Monica. We're going to have to put it on the shirt. And so the question of stake is, will the outcome of the argument, if successful, result in preserved or provided safety for a person, place, or thing. You know, like that's the stakes test. If this argument, if this argument is successful, is somebody's safety going to be positively impacted? Is somebody's dignity going to be positively impacted? Is somebody's money, is somebody's money going to be positively impacted? It's going to help somebody save some time or get some time back. Is it going to impact anybody's health or anybody's rights? If not, it kind of fails the stakes test. And what the stakes test is asking, even if and I know this is going to be hard for some people, because some of you have convinced yourself that, yeah, it's going to pass the stakes test, because then they're going to believe what I believe. But then even if they believe what you believe, what does it change about the outcome? And that's what the stakes test is about. What the question that is really asking is that, are either of us close enough to the context or the circumstance to have any impact on the outcome? If we're not, we're probably leapfrogging and putting the cart before the horse. There's probably something else we should be talking about that's a little bit closer to what we can do. And because we're skipping dealing with what we can do to talk about which one of us is right in an area that neither one of us has stakes in, then at this moment, we're no different than two school kids arguing back and forth about their favorite color. Whew. You know what I'm saying? I am the captain of my soul. Jalapeno. Can I get a hell yeah? You know? And so that's that. At the end of the day, that's not even just about utility. It's about genuineness. Like, bruh, I ain't trying to convince nobody to see the world the way I see the world unless I'm trying to get them to sign up to help me do something. You know, so which means that I'm not arguing with everybody who has a different worldview. I find that to be very interesting. Like, you find out somebody has a different worldview and you got to argue with them about it. Were you surprised that out of 8 billion people on the planet that somebody saw the world differently than you? Are you surprised that out of 8 billion people on the planet, somebody can go through life and come out of that motherfucker with a different opinion than you? No, that's superstitious. I'm never surprised when someone has a different or even offensive worldview than mine. It's not shocking to me. And I'm not immediately like, ooh, let me go police their worldview. Number one, because I'm not a fascist. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's their job to police their worldview. The question I have to ask is, how close am I to make a difference? You know? Again, going back to the T.I. and Tiny situation, I have an opinion about their marriage. How close am I, no matter how many people I get to agree with me about the opinion, how close am I to the situation to even have a fucking difference? Like, I'm not even close enough to make them mad about my opinion. You see what I'm saying? Like, critical thinking is more than just for religion. Critical thinking is more than just for how I engage superstition and faith and beliefs about gods and miracles and fairy tales. Oh my, it's about how I engage life. You know? So the stakes question is about, who does this help? At the end of this argument, if successful, who was helped? Who was helped? Other than my ego, other than me feeling better about, there's one more person who agrees with me about something that they ain't gonna do shit about anyway. What? No, you gotta be smarter than that. And y'all forgive me for being a little rough. I'm used to talking to leaders. Leadership is kind of like my bread and butter. So I like talking to people like you can actually do something about your life. You know, that's what I like doing. But it's, who does this help? How does this help? And how do I know? Still, who love me and whom I love think I'm full of hogwash, because I became an atheist, and it hurts. It hurts having them see me that way. Oh man, that's a good one. All right, this is deep. So I'm gonna pause to kind of address this one a little bit. And let me put it on the screen so that as the chat keeps going, we don't lose it. All right, so let's look at this. The question is, any advice on that my still Christian parents who love me and whom I love think I'm full of hogwash ever since I became an atheist, and it hurts having them see me that way. I'm so glad I read that again. I love the wording of this, and there are two things that I love about this. Number one, you identify the category of the situation or the context of the situation. They love me, because this is actually one of the other things we get into with this conversation. They love me and I love them. All right. That's the starting point. All right. They love me and I love them. And I'm assuming that's true for you in good faith, because typically people who say that because it is. Now, y'all have never heard me say that about my family. I don't say they love me. I've had plenty of years to know that I know what love looks like and what it doesn't. I'm really good at loving people. Listen to me with my egotistic, narcissistic self. I'm the best lover of folk out here, you know. So I know what love looks like. So my assumption is that that's real for you, that it is genuine, that you love them and that they love you. And so I think your answer is actually easy. I think yours is easy. I know it hurts having them see you that way, but just remember, you also see them as being full of hogwash in a lot of areas since you've become an atheist. And watch this: disagreement doesn't have to lead to disconnection. This is one of the reasons that I built Bridge City, right? Bridge City is not about creating a safe space for atheists, right? It's about creating a safe space for people, period, and helping people relearn how to connect better so that we can build better and so that we can live better. All right. So what I suggest or encourage in that relationship with your still Christian parents is just don't make Christianity the centerpiece of the relationship, because it likely wasn't the centerpiece of the relationship before your deconversion. And so it doesn't have to be now. Is it going to be a boundary in some ways? Absolutely. You know, and even then that depends on just how much they love Jesus, you know, and just how much you hate the idea of religion. And in most cases, people don't really live in those extremes. They live somewhere close to the middle. And so as long as it can be balanced, as long as the worst thing is they think I believe something crazy, then the feeling is mutual. And if we can still preserve the relationship, you know, beyond that, and then it's okay. You know, if you separate it from the idea of just having the disagreements about religious aspect, parents and children have disagreements about all types of things, you know. And I think if we remember that, you know, and I don't know who your parents voted for or anything like that. I know people take that another different route, but no, if the relationship is still loving, then again, 9 times out of 10, that relationship was never sustained by the belief that you shared. Is shared by the commonalities of your lived experience, your lived reality. This is mom, pa, I'm son. That's never going to change. And I'm assuming, I don't know. And if it's that type of relationship, just preserve the relationship. Avoid unnecessary conversations unless there's possibility for those conversations to lead to change. You know. So thank you for asking that, and I hope that sheds some type of light, and I hope that's helpful for some people. All right, so let me get in here. I'll take that off the screen so I don't leave you up there too long. Oh, I gotta go up. Oh, I can just click this, I think. Perfect. All right. And let me biggie size this again. See, I have to biggie size this to see this stuff. Leave as a thread. I can't let some statements stand unchallenged. I get why people feel that way. My question is, what is the utility of you challenging the statement? Which kind of, again, who does this help? How does this help? And how do I know? Now, if you still want to engage, do so. My concern is that it ends up becoming draining, or my concern, and y'all have heard me call this out, so don't get offended when I say it. My concern is that you end up fooling yourself into thinking you did something when you didn't. And that's what leads to a lot of token activism, where people are like, yeah, I schooled this random stranger on something. And I'm like, well, did they change their mind on it? No. So you're bragging about winning a game that you actually didn't win. Y'all see how that works? So it's that utility part, you know. It's the utility part. You got to ask yourself, and that's the thing. To me, when people say that, all I hear is, yeah, I got to pray. I can't let it go unchallenged. No, I got to pray. What are you challenging it doing? Like, and again, that's that, you know, it's like, is your challenge for the purpose of doing something, or is it just to make you feel better? You know, and if it makes you feel better without drowning you, then keep on at it. But that brings us to the second test, and that's the change test, which it falls so perfectly into this one. It's the change test. Is change possible right now? You know, which means it's worth it when the other person is reachable. You know, is this other person asking me questions? Is the other person paraphrasing me fairly? Are they willing to name trade-offs? Are they capable of saying, I might be wrong? If none of that is happening in the conversation, then I'm arguing with a stone wall, and I know that I'm doing it. They've given me all of the red flags that I'm not going to change my mind. I'm not interested in changing my mind. I'm not open to changing my mind. And so to help you understand what you might be doing at that moment is being toxic. You know, at that moment, there's no other word for that than two people trying to force themselves on each other. You know, y'all are molesting each other. Y'all need to stop that. Stop molesting each other now. No. Is this person showing me any signs that they are reachable? Are they showing me, are they treating the conversation fairly? You know what I'm saying? That's right. About topics being discussed, I also ask myself, could I be wrong? And I know I know I can be. That's it. Because then, you know, like at that moment, you know, it's a disagreement, but it's not defensive. You know, it's a disagreement. Yeah. But I'm not going to be in something where I'm defending myself, especially against someone who's not going to change. I'm not going to defend myself against you. I'm going to annihilate you. I'm sorry. Okay. So not worth it when they're performing for an audience, when they're locked into an identity defense, or they're only trying to win, which means the same thing for you. It's not worth it if you're performing for an audience, if you are locked into an identity defense, because at that moment, then you're not even defending the ideas anymore. You're defending the identity. Or if you're only trying to win. The best case scenario, and this is what I mean by time traveling. The best case scenario is that both of y'all feel like y'all won. Both of you feel angry or hurt by the other person. And absolutely nothing or no one experienced any meaningful or fruitful change. And so then at that moment, I encourage anybody to ask, if all of the things you're depending on changes are maybes and might be's, then you might still be in that superstitious mode of engaging other folk. And most importantly, there may be something else you could be doing that's actually more productive, more effective, and more worth your time. See, I'm very protective of my time because deconstructing helped me realize that I had wasted my time. So I don't waste time. That's how I keep a beautiful smile on my face, man. I don't waste time. And so ultimately, you end up creating harm in each other's lives for no practical reason. And neither one of you are better for it, you know? Which brings us to that third one. And this is probably the most important one. And maybe it's because I'm a sociologist, but like the amount of people who think they are actually changing the minds of strangers is mind blowing to me. Because I'm like, the least you can do is actually do a little bit of research about what changes people's minds. How do people change their minds? And I did a whole series on this. Is that people change their minds on a spectrum of safety. You being mad, you being convinced, you believing it with your whole little heart doesn't change anybody else's mind. You dropping any amount of facts you think are absolutely validated doesn't change anybody's mind. That's not how mind change works. Otherwise, all of our minds would be changed. We change our minds on spectrums of safety. Okay. So, like right now, I'm 100% convinced I'd never jump out of a burning building. There is no amount of conversation you can have with me. I'm sorry, not a burning building, jump out of a building. There's no amount of conversation you could have with me to make me jump out of a tall building, unless you can demonstrate that the current building I'm in is on fire and jumping out is the only way I can remain safe. You know what I'm saying? And so this is why a lot of online arguments fail. And boy, I'm about to dig in y'all ass now. This is why a lot of online arguments fail, is because you don't even give a damn about the person you're arguing with. Because if you did, you'd actually be looking for a way to win. And your way to win is helping them identify safety. One of the reasons I'm so successful is because I don't argue with people. I argue with the ideas. The ideas are the problem to me, not the people. I want the people to be safe because I know the damage that the ideas have caused. But as long as your posture is the person is a problem, then you're going to push them further and further into defensive posture. Which again gets us to this third one. It's the relationship test. Here's a question you want to ask yourself when you're getting ready to have an argument with the relationship about the relationship with the person you're about to have the argument with. Is this relationship an asset, a liability, or non-existent? And man, all three are important. You know, all three are important. Okay. It's worth it when the relationship is valuable and the argument impacts how to keep it functional. It's not worth it when the relationship is structurally unsafe, contempt, manipulation, or intimidation, and the argument is just another round of harm, nor when the relationship is non-existent. So if the relationship is structurally unsafe, my engagement is likely a trauma response that keeps me trapped in unhealthy dynamics. And this is what I see in a lot of online argumentation. What a lot of people call, I can't let that go unchallenged, is your trauma response to unhealthy situations. It's the thing that keeps you stuck in unhealthy dynamics. So even though you know it's not helping, you will make up anything to make yourself believe that is helping somebody, even if you have no evidence that is helping anybody, because it's not even about helping. It's about answering your trauma response. And that trauma response is keeping you trapped in unhealthy dynamics because health is no longer a standard for you. Is that good? Is that good, y'all? It's what I call a plea for help in the wrong direction. That relationship isn't healthy enough to help the conversation. Relationships matter so much, right? So if the relationship is friendship, kinship, partnership, membership, or mentorship, and the conversation impacts the functional dynamics of our relationship, the argument is always worth having. If we're all committed to preserving the relationship. You know, I don't argue with people I'm not in relationship with. Period. Period. Because the moment, watch this, if I'm not in relationship with you, I don't know nearly enough about you to be able to truly critique why you stand where you stand, why you feel the way you feel. And because I don't allow myself to pretend to know what I don't actually know or what I haven't tried to know, then I know I run the risk of stepping on so many mines in your life, stepping on so many triggers that I don't even know if I'm having a conversation with you or your trauma because I don't know you like that. And that's the same way. Like, I think the internet has convinced us that we know people who are actually strangers. And I think this leads to us doing more damage than good because now people are painting the whole world based off of how they interact with people online and not how they interact with people in reality. So now almost everybody's life is defined by social media's perspective, not by their neighbors, not by the people they go shopping with, not by the people they go, they live with, not by the people they in the malls with. I don't know what else other Americans do other than shop. You know what I'm saying? Not by the people they in the restaurants with, but just by the people they see online who they actually have no relationship with whatsoever, which I'm going to be honest with you. That is a cheap route out. You're telling me you can have a full-on conversation confident that you're going to convince a stranger, but you cannot have the same conversation with your neighbor? You have to think about what that actually says about your intentions. If this is about people, then the most effective way to reach people is to start with the people you know. So I don't argue with people that I'm not in relationship with. Like if I just had two general rules of thumbs for thank you so much. Y'all are too nice. If I had two rules of thumbs, just simple ones, just if you want to throw all this out the window, and these are like me. I'm not saying this is advice. This is me, right? I only argue with people I love over things I love. If I'm not in relationship with the person who's trying to pull me in an argument, the first thing I do is I warn that the approach is inappropriate. And sometimes you've seen me do this on YouTube. Someone, especially in my early days when I had more time to respond, people would always try to pull me into an argument. The advice I'd always give is, hey, go find someone who you're actually in relationship with to have that conversation. Because the odds of you, a random ass faceless stranger on YouTube commenting in negativity, actually working to change my mind is not very high. Not very high. Statistics isn't my favorite subject, but the probability of you being a random ass, faceless ass, nameless ass, AI image generated ass, and then you come into my life not knowing anything about me, thinking you're going to change my mind just because you want to. You sound like you're 7 at that moment to me. And I'm not saying you are 7. I'm saying you sound like you're 7 if you thought that was going to work. Now, see, I love that. I do that actually. All my neighbors are pro-science. Now, that's where it starts. That's where it starts. That's where it's most effective. It's the relationships. So if someone comes at me trying to pull me in an argument and we don't have a relationship, I typically warn them that the approach is inappropriate. I'll let them know some way. It's not always nice. It's not always nice, but I'll let them know, like, hey, I don't know you. You don't know me. And so what you don't know about me is that I don't believe in astrology, but I am a Taurus. And so I am a bull. And so people who really know me have a hard time changing my mind. It's damn near impossible for a stranger to change my mind. And it's also just from the standpoint that I don't owe you that. You're a fucking stranger. No. Like, do you know how bad, do you know like how fucked up of a person I'd be in life if I felt like I had to respond to every stranger who had an opinion about me? I've been that person. I was a pastor for 2 decades. It don't make you healthy. It don't make you healthy. I'm telling you. At least it didn't make me healthy. Maybe you grew up on a different milk than I grew up. You know what I'm saying? But it did not make me healthy. So someone wants to have a argument with me and we don't have a relationship. I warn them like, hey, we're not going to do that. That's a little inappropriate, you know, because and watch this. Arguments to me, like they're emotional. Like there's an investment in that. I'm investing my time and my energy into that. I'm very protective of my time and my energy. And so like if you're not really within my space, going back to that kind of being the God of my own universe thing, if you're not really within my space, why would I be sending my time and my energy outside of my space? You know what I'm saying? Like I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. You know? Yeah, I'm a May 15th baby. I'm a May 15th baby, man. I'm a bull all the way. Bald-headed, bearded bull. Bald-headed, patchy bearded bull. That's me. Bald-headed, patchy bearded, big glasses bull. That's me. That's me. I was about to say something else, but that was gonna get a little nasty. So I'm gonna stop right there. All right. So if an argument, and I want you to think about it. If an argument is an escalated disagreement, then for me, agreement is the prerequisite to disagreement. All right. How did we get to escalated disagreement without ever having a pre-established consensus of agreement? This is one of the biggest reasons why I don't argue with strangers. That's a personal problem. You roll up on me, hear me say something that you don't agree with, and then try to hold me accountable to agreement without relationship, lets me know that your little engine don't go all the way into the little engine house yet. Now it might get there. It's like I think I can. It's the little engine that could. But listen, just because you don't recognize that you're not operating on a full set of marbles, don't mean I have to throw out my marbles with you. All right. So no, we can't get to, or we shouldn't get to an escalated disagreement if there was no pre-consensus of agreement. So like the difference between me and those people is you live in a world where you believed everybody agreed with you. Bruh. Like, no, that's the most shocking thing to me is the amount of adults who are shocked when other adults don't share their worldview. And I'm like, were you homeschooled your whole life or something? Because like if you didn't learn nothing in the American public education school system, you should have learned that motherfuckers be different. Like, oh my goodness. Like the playground has always been split up. It's always been split up. And you out here acting like you new to this. Acting brand new. Like, wake up. Wake up and recognize. All right? I'm sorry. All right. So, and I wanted to share this one because this one isn't just me. This one is actually grounded in some stuff. Arguing with strangers, particularly online, often serves as a performative, high stakes, and often futile effort to affirm one's own identity rather than to convince the opponent. And I'm telling you, there are better ways and healthier ways than to affirm your identity. Okay? If the affirmation of your identity is tied up into who you defeat in arguments, I want to be the first person to tell you that you're likely not living in a healthy space. That's not how you should define your identity. Your identity shouldn't be defined by what you won't let stand. It should be defined by what you stand for. Damn, that's good. Anybody can knock somebody down. Who can stand up? Who can stand up? You know. So, and this was come to according to the analysis by What to Do About Now. It's often a self-validating behavior that can lead to unproductive, stressful, and at times volatile confrontations, which I ultimately think is what the person who messaged me was wrestling with. They're realizing that I'm doing these things that are really important to me, and that's what they said. Some of these conversations are very important to me. And look, I used to be that way too. There were a lot of things that I did that were very important for me, but then I remember, or not remember, but I came into the realization that important is not the standard, because important can be objective. The question is it beneficial? It's important, but is it beneficial? And that's what this person is struggling with now. They're struggling with, or when they sent the message, I don't know if they're still struggling with it, but they're struggling with, like, I'm having conversations that are important. I'm having arguments that are important, but I'm not feeling the benefit. Where's the benefit? And so this is how we get there. Oh, I love that. What door or window? I love it. So the next one is a clarity test. And this is one of my favorite. I think this is the one that makes me like a viper. This is the one that makes me like cold-blooded sometimes. Again, you do not want to try to, you don't want to try to persistently invite me into an argument, because all I'm really going to do is cuss you out and then ignore you. Because I'm like, who the hell are you to try to force me into a conversation? Like, don't do that. Don't do that. You know? So it becomes, let me see. But what if they disagree with what you stand for? My friend got angry when I said what I'd do if I was in debt, like he was. He said, I don't give a fuck. Well, oh, dang, that's funny. I don't. See, that's a different situation. That kind of seems like you were given unsolicited advice. So that's, I don't know. Like, that's another thing. Like, I worked on an article called "The Art of Being Helpful," and it's never helpful to walk through a door that other people didn't open. And so if that person asked, hey, what would you do if you was in as much debt as I did? Then it's absolutely fine for you to offer your opinion. Access doesn't mean you get to override people's boundaries. So you don't get to say, well, because you're my friend, I get to say to you whatever I want to say to you about your situation. They still have to be willing to open that door. And if they don't open that door, then they're absolutely right to get angry with you. You're violating a boundary. You know, and that boundary probably comes from a little bit of place where you're just like upset with seeing them do things to their life. But it's just like, that's the thing. Friendship isn't ownership. You don't own their life. Everybody's journey is their own journey. And I'll say this as a Taurus, your advice about what you would do should be for you. Yeah, he's asking you for money. If someone asking you for money, you say no. He's not asking you for advice. Do you see the difference there? And you're thinking, because I give you money, I can give you advice. You're thinking that money gives you some type of control in somebody's life, when the whole purpose of you giving the money was self-validating, not to help. Right? And so, like, and that's why you go back to help. Well, if I really want to help and I know that you're not going to do what you need to do with the money, then I'm not going to give you the money, and I'm going to say no. But for me to give you the money and then try to give you advice that you didn't ask for, I can't be mad at you that you get angry. You know, because if anybody gave me advice that I didn't ask for, no, I asked you for $20. Well, if I was you, you could just say no. Just say, no, I'm not giving you the $20. And if that person asks, why aren't you giving me that money? Now that door is open for that conversation. But we have to break that habit of trying to force what we do on other people. You not them. They in their situation because they not you. You know what I'm saying? And if they know you, they probably already know that you do things differently. Now, here's probably the real tension. And this is good because I've been here with my friends. Here's probably the real tension. I don't give my friends those type of advice anymore. I pay attention. And the reason I don't give them that advice, it's not even just about me not trying to be a jackass. It's because I don't like wasting my words. I realize if I keep on giving good advice to people who are not going to take it, it's going to make my advice look bad. And so I'm not, and it goes back to everything I'm saying here. Does the person even seem like they're changeable? If they're not willing to change, then I'm not even giving them advice for them. I'm giving it to make me feel like I'm on my high horse. And that does make me a jackass. That's what I had to realize about my friends. I'm out here, and I think my advice for their lives is good. I think it's the best advice. Like, motherfucker, you tripping. But those are the decisions that they're making in their lives as adults. Now, one of the things I had to make the decision to do, and you might have to do the same thing, was stop rescuing them out of stuff that they were repeatedly putting themselves in. And so my no got really strong with those folk, you know. But then also number two, and this all started happening around the same time of my deconstruction. My wife will testify to this. Like my wife be like, "Oh, you got these your friends," and I'm like, "Wait a minute, these are not my friends. These are just people that have been associated to my life before Christianity." You know what I'm saying? And I'm trying to figure out who is who. But no, these are not my friends. And so sometimes that tension that you're really feeling there is what I'll call the pacing tension, is that we're moving at two different paces. We're moving in two different directions. You're still having to figure out, you know, what you want to do financially. And I've already figured out that I don't want to be broke. And it's not that where you are makes you bad, makes you less than me. It's just that as long as we're in each other's life, I'm either going to aggravate the hell out of you with advice that you don't want, or you're going to aggravate the hell out of me always begging me for my shit. And so either way, and I think this is where the tension is. This is actually what we're talking about in our next Sunday session series, Falling in Love with Reason. The very first conversation is friends with benefits. It's realizing like this friendship, I may have outgrown this friendship, because there's no way for me to stay in this friendship without you getting better or me becoming toxic. You do have access. Well, absolutely. It's always possible to convince yourself of anything. And that's the thing you have to be mindful of. And that's why you give yourself those, you give yourself like a contextual utility check. How close am I to the situation? They ask for more until I say no, until you say no. Like I had friends, like literally every time something about, "Hey Darante, can I come?" No, here's the worst part. It wouldn't even be, "Hey Darante, can I come stay with you?" It'd be, hey Darante, you want to hang out today? I got stuff to do. Well, you know, just maybe I'll come do some stuff with you. Sure. And then I go to pick you up and you got a whole bag of clothes and shit. And I'm like, whoa. Whew. And so you ain't got nowhere to go, do you? Nah, they done kick me out. And of course, because I'm a pastor at that time, and me too, Austin, I'm a pastor at the time, I definitely have that Messiah complex. That's why it was so hard for me to get out of so many arguments, because like many of you, I felt like the argument was me saving the world. I'm saving the world, God damn it. Captain Save-A-Ho. You didn't know? No, like I'm out here, you know, trying to save everybody, trying not to be anybody's disappointment, trying to make sure everybody's good. And then eventually realizing, like, no, dude, that's superstition. You ain't everybody. You are not Oprah Winfrey. You are not every woman. You get it? You know what I'm saying? You. And that's all you can be. Sometimes you was gonna gel with some people, and sometimes you was not gonna gel with some people. Sometimes you is gonna outgrow some people, and some people are gonna outgrow you. But the good news is there's plenty of space, and there's 8 billion people on this planet. You know, and that's the hard part. That's the hard part. But that brings us to the clarity test. The clarity test is, do you know what you want out of this argument? Now, this is something that me and my wife used to do. We'd be in the middle of an argument. What do you want? All right. And if this argument ends right now and you won, what did you win? That's the question you have to ask yourself. Right now, this argument ended miraculously. I stepped in. You are the winner. What the hell did you win? You know, like fast forward and ask yourself, if I expend all of this energy and this time and this effort in this conversation with this person who is already stonewalling me, even if they change their mind, what have I won? You know, It's the clarity test is worth it when you can answer what you want in one sentence. If you can't answer what you want out of the conversation in one sentence, then you might not be in the conversation in good faith. You might simply just be reacting to a trigger or a trauma response. You know? So like some viable things that you may want, especially if there's a actual relationship in play, is I want us to agree on a boundary. I'm having this argument because you keep crossing this boundary, and I know we're going to preserve this relationship, but man, I gotta keep you from crossing that boundary. All right, you passed the clarity test. You're having this conversation because the outcome that you want on the other side of this is you want them to have a clear understanding of where you draw the line. All right. Now, you can't control whether they're going to understand it or not, but you can do your best to paint the picture. And then if they don't get it after that, you can change that line to a wall. You know what I'm saying? Somebody said, what are the tests again? The first one is, dang it, why didn't I put these in headings so I don't have to scroll back up? The first one is the stakes test. What's at risk? If this argument ends positively, who has been helped, what has been helped, and how? And qualifier that I didn't share is, how do I know? What qualifies me to know if this is helpful? That qualifier check is a humility one, man. It's a humility one. The second one is the change test. Is change possible right now? Is the other person reachable? Am I reachable? Are we asking questions? Are we paraphrasing each other, fairly? Are we willing to say that, I could be wrong about this? Because like, if they're not even willing to say that I could be wrong, it's not an argument, it's an inquisition. It's not an argument, it's a crusade. If the person has already told you, I don't think, I'm not willing to change my mind, you are the aggressor at that moment. You know what I'm saying? And I mean, you may feel like you have a good reason for your aggression at that moment, but just to let you know, aggressors always do. And then the third one, which is the one we hit right before the one we're in now, is the relationships test. Is this relationship an asset, a liability, or non-existent? If the relationship is an asset and this argument impacts the functionality of this relationship, we got to have it. But if the relationship is unsafe structurally, this relationship is riddled with intimidation, manipulation, coercion, or any type of abuse, then me engaging an argument with this type of relationship is a trauma response that's actually keeping me stuck in an unhealthy relationship. All right. And then the last, and of course, non-existence. Like, if we don't really have a relationship, we're just yelling at strangers. The internet makes us forget that people are strangers, but you just yelling at strangers, And then the one we're on now is the clarity test. Do you know what you want? Like, here's one that I think will sit well with a lot of one of my ex-friends to straighten out his finances so he'd have food, tobacco, and not go without, and also for him to stop asking money from me. Yeah, see, the best things with that, man, is it's hard, but you have to respect where people live, right? Respect where people are, because we're all on our journeys. And this is why I'm not hard on people who believe stupid shit, and I'm not hard on people who do stupid shit. I just don't hang out with them like that, but I'm not hard on them because I'm like, you can pick a moment in my life where I was that person. I think, like, if you look at most of our lives, you can find a point in our lives where we did stupid shit. And you could probably find a point in our lives where people tried to tell us we were doing stupid shit, and we still didn't believe it, still didn't recognize it. And 9 times out of 10, it's because we're being covered by them. And so sometimes the best thing to do is just stop covering for them, and that's not the moment you're doing it from a punishment, then I feel like you're in the wrong vein. But it's just like, no, I can't afford to take care of you and me too. Like, that's just not how that works, not in this society. Maybe that day will come, and then just letting them know, like, hey, because our goal, and again, if you come from that savior complex background or even that martyr complex, then I have to do everything I can to make sure you become a better person. But like, they have to do everything they can to make sure they're going to become a better person. And no amount of loving them or caring for them is going to take that responsibility out of their hands. As a matter of fact, the more you do it, you end up just crippling them, because then they know I can always come to you. And eventually, even regardless of the lectures, they start feeling that you're obligated to do it. And then that's when, not only is that aggravating and annoying for you, it's detrimental for their progress. Because then once the friendship ends, they're looking for someone else who's now obligated. And so sometimes it's just best to realize that, hey, that's where you are right now, and I'm not there, and I don't want to be there with you. Like here's the thing about me, like, and I had to get staunch about this, and I know this is probably gonna rub some people the wrong way, but I can't be friends with people that I'm always having to pay for everything. That's not a friendship. And honestly, I'm concerned that we ignore the psychological ramifications of how we treat people when you get that type of access in their lives. You know, I'm not saying it happens to everybody. There are some exceptions, but when you're the friend who pays for everything, there are some really bad control dynamics that come into play there that can make you unhealthy and the other person, you know? Science deniers, they aren't going to change their minds. Like science deniers, like when it comes, especially when it comes to science deniers, who are like just going at it. One of the biggest reasons, like I said, it's not worth it with them, because kind of like with believers, reason didn't get them to those conclusions, you know? And so it's something else that they're attached to, that 9 times out of 10, no amount of facts that you're bringing up are going to hit what they need. And that's, to me, that's one of the reasons, to me, like, relationship is the prerequisite to an argument. If we're not in relationship, we shouldn't be arguing. Like, why are we arguing with strangers? And the reason I say that is because I don't care how much you know about the subject. If you don't know about the person, you don't have the tools to have the conversation. Subject mastery and knowing how to talk to people are two different things. They're not the same things. Subject mastery and education are not the same thing. Subject mastery and helping someone else get understanding, they're not the same thing. So, like, there is no shortcut for not knowing the person. If you don't know the person, you don't know enough to convince them. You don't know where they are on their safety spectrum. You don't even know what safety means to them. And ultimately, it doesn't even matter to you, because you don't care about the person. You only care about the point, which, again, that's the thing that reveals the disingenuousness of the argument itself, not just on their side, but many times from our sides as well. So for the clarity test, it's not worth it if you can't name the goal beyond I'm mad. If you can't name the goal beyond they need to stop. If you can't name the goal beyond I don't like them saying that. If you can't name the goal beyond they shouldn't believe that, then you don't have an argument. You have a complaint. You know, that's not a goal. That's a complaint. You know? So you may be, and think about it this way, you may be validated in being mad, justified in being hurt and concerned, but the question of argument worthiness is outcome based. If any possible outcome doesn't lead to something that I actually want, then I have to question why I'm engaging the conversation. Which brings us to the last one. Let me hold 10,000. Man, I'm trying to get there, Monica. I'm trying to get there, you know? Which in all actuality, I don't talk about money a lot. But that is one of the things. That's one thing that when I have money, you're going to know. You're going to know, because that's something you will see my organizations doing left and right. You're going to see us, like there's a strategy that I believe in called help and hope. And we actually have it. We have a framework for it. We haven't launched it before. My wife and I used to run it, but it's a strategy called Help and Hope. And the idea is that people need both. People need structural, systemic, real-time, tangible help, but they also need hope, which is just those reminders that good things can happen and that things can change on a dime. And so that one of the things that I've vowed to use our resources for, and it's not just because I deconverted. This is who I was when I was still a believer. This was the type of pastor I was. These are the type of things we did at my church. But one of the things that I've definitely vowed to do is to make sure that like there are organizations that use their resources to fight stuff in court, to use their resources to do support political candidates. And while we have some things for that, our primary thing is helping people. So like y'all gonna see us giving out cars, giving out houses, all type of stuff, because people need help and they need hope. Man, yeah, Austin. Like, I won't say a complete waste of time for the call-in shows, because and I'll say this. While there are a lot of trolls, and y'all notice, if you notice, I don't do the call-in shows anymore. But there are a lot of trolls who come into the call-in shows. I will say you're more likely to get someone genuinely trying to have a conversation on the call-in shows than you will at a debate event. At a debate event, like 9 times out of 10, both people have showed up not to have their minds changed, which those events are more so for the people in the audience, which still I just be like, it's like WWE at that moment. But yeah, it still gives off that kind of energy for me. It gives that kind of energy, Yes, I don't ever want people to think that debate shows are bad, they're public duels. Yeah, I like saying it that way. And they're open invitation, they're open invitation. Anybody can call. And so you do get some jewels where a person is calling because they thought they were really grounded and they were trying to have an honest relationship with their faith. And they call in and realize, damn, I'm not having an honest relationship with my faith, and some change happens. Yes. And I'll highlight, thank you for bringing that. 9 times out of 10, though, it happens because they're talking to somebody who is an educator. So I'll highlight someone like Forrest Valcott. Like, if you got somebody like me or Matt, we just gonna rip you to shreds, and walk away. For 2 different reasons. Matt has his reasons. I have my reasons. We are not the same. Please don't get us don't get us confused or combined and all that. Eesh. But Forrest, I know, like, he takes great pride in knowing that this is somebody who, on the other side of the call, who is actually curious, And so when you have that, that is a gem. That is a gem. All right. So the last test is the cost test. And this one is sometimes a little harder to run, but what will it cost you to engage this? And this is where you gotta oh, you better stop that. Like, I ain't trying to offend Matt, but stop. Don't do that. I'm the good-looking twin. Now let me stop. No, Matt does great work. What will it cost you to engage? This one, you have to have some serious self-awareness about. What will it cost you to engage? It's worth it when this is a conversation that I can have and I can stay regulated and I can exit cleanly, because like who you are still matters. Your peace still matters. And you don't want to take a conversation, that maybe takes you 15 minutes of your day and then ruins the rest of your week. You know what I'm saying? And so you have a right to pay attention to your self-regulation. So if you notice that you are too emotionally invested in the moment, if you're already flooded, you're shaking, you're racing, you're spiraling, then at that moment, it's not an argument, it's a trauma response, and get out. Get out. At that moment, you're repeating a trauma cycle, get out as soon as you can. All right. You're at that moment, you're not arguing anymore. You're fighting for survival against someone who has no impact on your survival. And that can become very dangerous unchecked. Okay. To give you context of what that looks like outside of the internet. So like the internet creates space between us that makes us feel that we don't have to be accountable for our emotions because we don't have the ability to act on them if we were present. But emotions, like if that's the way you keep training yourself, then that's the way you're going to start responding in real life. And that's the type of behavior that leads to people harming each other physically over misunderstandings, disagreements, and it's not necessary and it does nothing productive. But what's happened is you've gotten out of regulation and the argument is now personal for you. And so you're not even fighting for a point anymore. You're fighting to survive. And the problem with that is that person has no impact on your survival. That's how you know it's a trauma response. It's damn near PTSD at that moment. I can't let them do this to me again. They've never done this to you before. This is a random. I know you've been through a lot of hard things, and I know you're experiencing that right now. But we're going to have to work to breathe and regulate, And that's really what all of these questions and all of these tests are kind of about. It's learning how to preserve yourself, to protect your peace and reserve your things and reserve your energy for things that actually make a difference. Because that's what you end up robbing yourself of. If you chase every argument you're invited to, or you try to jump into every argument that you think is worth it before counting the cost, then when it's actually time for you to show up to the plate and make a difference, when you're actually needed to be present, you're not able to be. You end up putting yourself through so much unnecessary abuse. It's like putting yourself through Vietnam and ain't nobody to save. It becomes a vicious cycle, man. Yeah. Is it better to walk away or stand and take the hits while trying to calm down? I think if the person is throwing hits and it's clear that they're not willing to change their minds, then you just walk away. Walk away. I don't want to say arguments are never productive, and I don't want to say that arguments are never helpful, because, and watch this, even in some unproductive arguments I've been able to pull some helpful information out of them every now and then. But what I challenge everyone to do now, and I think this might be helpful for everybody, is when it's an argument, think about what's really at stake. And that does kind of go back to that stakes test. But think about what's really at stake and why it matters to you, right? So Holocaust denial and Civil War history revisionism is a perfect point, right? So the reason that is so alarming to see that spreading is this is misinformation, and people are going to believe this misinformation, and people are going to act on this misinformation. So now the question is, if the thing that I'm concerned about is the spread of misinformation, my question then needs to be, what is the best path forward? Now, is it good strategy to try to close the mouth, shut down, or convert every person who's been impacted by the misinformation? Or is it better strategy to find a better way to platform the right information? And like, I've had this conversations in political conversations plenty of time. is that we spend so much time fighting against what's wrong that we don't invest enough time building what's right. And so while I don't want to say that arguments are always futile, I do want to say that there are 1,000,001 other things that are 10 times and 100 times more effective than arguments. And it bothers me to my core that we have more gravitation towards the arguments than the things that actually help build. All right. So just to give an example, but watch this, and this example is going to hurt people in the feelings, because you can only do this if you're organized for what you want. If the only time we're organized is around being upset at other people and to make our arguments better, then we're never organizing to create after-school programs that counter the nonsense. Then we're never organizing to bring in science fairs back in the community neighborhoods, suburban and urban. Then we are never organizing to support new education initiatives in communities. Because let me tell you who is organizing around all of those things: the people who are not wasting time arguing. And those are the believers who actually believe what they say. And that's something, because so many people in the secular community have never truly been religious. They don't realize that 9 times out of 10, they're not even arguing with the religious people who are making a difference. They're arguing with some internet troll who don't even vote. You know, you thinking this, you don't know this person. You don't convince yourself that you know this person's whole biology, political timeline, and all of that. And this person is a complete stranger. Yes, staying away from bad faith arguments, it will save your life. Listen, I got high blood pressure. I can't afford to be arguing with anybody. Like, I just got my baseline down to, I forgot what the top number is called, but I got my baseline top number down like 187. Anybody from the medical profession, you know what that means. I'm like a ticking time bomb. I'm not supposed to be here. And it's been, thank you, the systolic number. Yes, my systolic baseline, I wake up at about 187. And this is just after having to get myself on a new regimen. My baseline used to be 240. Systolic. Diastolic right now is in the 90s, and that still ain't where it's supposed to be. You know, so I probably should have led with that. I don't argue with everybody because I got high blood pressure, and I've had it like my whole life. You know, I hate to use like the old folks little country wild stuff, but like my nose sweat my whole life. Like, that tells you how bad my pressure is, and so I can't afford to add any pressure in my life that's going to make me more unhealthier than I already am. You know. Oh, that is so cool, man. Like, you might be able to give me some advice, because honestly, y'all, I don't know. Like, I'm actually writing a paper on it, because I'm not the only one. There are quite a few African Americans who have levels of blood pressure that's not diet related or lifestyle related that would be considered unsustainable in other people's bodies. And like, that's why every time we go to the doctor just like, I'm surprised you're still alive. Kidney still working? All right. I guess so. This is new, you know. But no, your life is precious. Your time is valuable. Your energy is valuable, and you get to choose how you use it. And so really the only thing that I'm suggesting today is that if you're going to have an argument with anybody, make sure it's an argument that helps you get closer to what you want out of life. Make sure it's an argument that helps you get closer to the actual goal and not the high of the moment. The high of the moment will have you thinking you did something when you did not. You know? So if you want to have conversations with people about medical vaccinations, can I tell you, like, the best people to have those arguments with? The people who can change those, the people who drive those decisions. But then you be like, I'm too far away to argue with those people. And that's how you know you're not close enough to argue. But what you are close enough to do is to organize. So instead of wasting time with people who you already know don't believe these things, it would be a better use of your time to find people who support science, who support science information, and to organize with them to get more information out there, to get it in people's faces every day, not in this hostile, confrontational, vitriolic. I don't know if that's the word. It is now. Vitriolific. I think I like vitriolific better, but just not in this negative way. But again, where do people change their minds? On the spectrum of safety. So you figure out, like, how can I have more conversations than arguments? That's one of the things Bridge City is doing. We're trying to create safe space for people, period. You know, like this Sunday night, we're having our third community movie night, and we're going to be watching. Let me see what he did. I like it. Dang it, I gotta get close. Vitrilius. Hey, wasn't that somebody? Isn't that a character? But we're going to be having our movie night, and we're watching Idiocracy this Sunday night together. The goal isn't to get people in there and say, "See what you're leading our government to." The goal is to get people in there and have a conversation around that subject. Vitriolic. I like that. I like that. See, I love y'all, man. Y'all are cool. We get to have real good conversations in here. But yeah, so now I will say 3 arguments that are almost always worth having. Number 1, boundary arguments. Like if it's someone, fucking with your boundaries, hey, have that argument. Repair arguments where harm has been done and needs naming and changed. Have that conversation. And then of course, reality arguments. And that's really where I try to live at. And that's like facts that drive decisions, health, money, safety, parenting, or work. That's where you want to go. Mike Judge. Oh, that's hilarious. That's hilarious. Oh yeah, you can. You just make up any word that you want to. Like that's how I treat language, which I love. But no, all arguments are optional. All arguments are optional. And then like even when it's like one of your little petty arguments, because I got those too. We all do. I'm not anybody's source of truth. I'm not anybody's model of perfection. So I'm not saying like I know I got some arguments that I regret getting in. That's where this information comes from. This information comes from, I got in that argument and it cost me a friend, or I got in that argument and it cost me my time, or I got in an argument and it cost me my energy. And either way, either way, the thing that I actually wanted out of the argument, I didn't get. And I mean, that goes for couples too, like I think sometimes we get into a habit of just wanting to speak our minds. And it's just like, okay, after you speak your mind, what do you want on the other side of that? You got to time travel. Don't get stuck in the moment. Oh, snap. All right, I'm definitely going to have to go back and watch that. But all right, I think that's all I have for you today. I've been on here for almost 2 hours. For everybody who jumped on with me for this conversation, I sincerely appreciate you. I don't think I want to. I'm trying to think if I got anything that I need to say, any announcements. This Sunday, we are starting a new series, Falling in Love with Reason. And we're going to be talking about friendships. We're going to be talking about kinship, your family. We're going to be talking about partnership and even membership. One of the things I've noticed and it's not just people who've deconstructed, it's people who are choosing to live in a post-religious worldview altogether, is finding a way to reorient to relationships, because so many of our relationships are still defined by either religious or cultural, patriarchal superstitions. And so it's like, no, I want to help us. I want to build conversations that help us make our friendships matters, make sure that we're engaging family, healthy, blood or not. You know what I'm saying? Family's not blood to me, make sure that we're engaging our partnerships, whether that's sexual, professional, however you get down. Maybe you got one, maybe you got two, maybe you got a whole few. I don't know what you do. But either way, we're going to talk about it, and then we'll end up talking about membership. And then we're also painting the vision for the Bridge City aspect of what we're trying to do. Y'all look at this, man. Like this is what we're working on. This is where we're trying to go. We're not here to play. We're not here to be in the background. We're not here to be on the sidelines. I sincerely believe that what we're building is a catalyst for the next phase of human evolution. At the end of the day, we're trying to be human better. You know what I'm saying? Just trying to be human better for all of us. And that's why I say Bridge City, it doesn't exist just for atheists. It doesn't exist just for non-believers. It exists for people, period, who are ready to live beyond the labels and beyond the polarization of difference. We are in this together. We are sharing this planet together, and we're going to have to learn how to occupy it together. We're going to have to learn how to work together, how to collaborate, and it's not going to happen overnight. And we're going to have to give ourselves a little bit of grace, because we have to realize that, like I remind people from a social or anthropological perspective, it was just like 300 years ago when we stopped killing each other on sight as a species. You know what I'm saying? Like just 300 years ago that we stopped killing each other on sight. It used to be, knew you? Who are you? You die. Like that, like just 300 years ago. And I mean, there's still parts of us that are like that. And so we have to give ourselves some grace and understanding that where we are today is a side effect of a long, dark, complicated journey of trying to figure out reality without having much to go on. I do have a little bit more of a gracious view of the world that we live in than others do. But that's because, to me, once you remove the idea of somebody sitting on a chair in the sky controlling everything, then history makes sense. It's like, oh yeah, these are just children fighting along in the dark. These are ape children at that, fighting along in the dark, trying to find their way, trying to figure out what light is, trying to figure out what life is, trying to figure out what is this fire that drives us. And as a species, we've made a lot of mistakes, but we're still on our way. And so we're nowhere near where we could be. But I think the simple fact that we can imagine better means that we can attain better. And that means that we're getting better. The simple fact that you're able to look at things today and say that shouldn't be, and that's unacceptable, I think that speaks to our growth. And now we just have to convert that growth into maturity. And if we do, we'll be a force to reckon with. And either way, in my humble opinion, that's how we build bridges to better. So thank y'all all for hanging out with me today. I love y'all so much. And until next time, keep rising.
So happy to be here, finally living with no fear. I'm living my best year, so glad I didn't give up in last year. I'm happy that you're here too, so happy to be with you. Glad that you made it through, I saw that you made it through. I'm happy to be here, I'm finally living with no fear. I'm living my best year, so glad I didn't give up in last year. I'm happy that you're here too, so happy to be with you. So glad that you made it through, I saw that you made it through. I don't know if you hear it or not, but I want you to know that this song is about you. I'm saying you're more than enough. If you looked at yourself, you would be fucking proud of you. Get that weight off your chest, let it go, let it flow, let it roll off your shoulders. Don't be scared to be loud, to be proud, to be bold, to be more than they told ya. It's like jumping out of airplanes and swimming with the sharks. That existential feeling when you're staring at the stars. There's a hurricane in my head, but the lightning in my heart makes it worth it. Yeah, I still get nervous when you drop in the stream and you check out this life is. Yeah, it feels like the very first time I can deal with you forever. I am certain, yeah, 'cause I still get nervous when we all get the point in the fireworks, blasting the sparks through the air like the 4th of July. I can deal with you forever, I am certain, yeah, 'cause I still get nervous. So happy to be here, I'm finally living with no fear. I'm living my best year, so glad I didn't give up in last year. I'm happy that you're here too, so happy to be with you. Glad that you made it through, I saw that you made it through. I don't know if you hear it enough, but I want you to know that this song is about you. I'm saying you're more than enough. If you looked at yourself, you would be fucking proud of you. Get that weight off your chest, let it go, let it flow, let it roll off your shoulders. Don't be scared to be loud, to be proud, to be bold, to be more than they told you. It's like flying in the fast lane, no headlights in the dark. That existential feeling makes you wonder who you are. There's a wild wind in my head, but the butterflies in my heart makes it worth it. 'Cause I still get nervous when you drop in the stream and you check out this life. And yeah, it feels like the very first time I can be with you forever. I am certain, yeah. 'Cause I still get nervous when we all get the point in the fireworks, flashing and sparks through the air like the 4th of July. I can build with you forever. I am certain, yeah. 'Cause I still get nervous. Hey! 'Cause I still get nervous. 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 We all get the point in the fireworks, flashing and sparks through the air like the 4th of July. I still get nervous when you drop in the stream and you check out this life and it feels, yeah, it feels like the very first time.